What's up, everyone? It's Russo. I hope everyone is doing well. Please follow my Instagram at Russo Lifts, just in case something happens to this YouTube channel. You can follow, message, and you can watch my daily story content on Instagram. I'll see you there. What's up, everyone? It's Russo. I hope everyone is doing well. Here with IFBB Pro Nathan Glaser. He is the hometown hero when it comes to being Mr. Pittsburgh and the mentor guru of the local scene in Pittsburgh. And then Nate went on to earn his pro card in Open, and he is an NPC judge right now. So this is, gold mine of info right here. I wanted to touch on Nate's transformation. So I think you're like the epitome of you don't need really genetics at all to turn pro in Open. You did the hardest pro card, no physique. Yeah. I'm doing bullshit classic physique. Like,
not masters, open men's bodybuilding.
This is real open men's bodybuilding. Like, that's way harder to get a pro card. Like, I'm gonna throw up a picture right now of this transformation. Like, when you first started, you obviously manifested that you were going to get to a pro card.
Yeah, good point. So
when your journey along the way, you took out a lot of genetic freaks on conditioning alone. Like, go into the opposite side, because you're not the only one who's climbed all the way up there without the quote unquote gifts. I think another example would be Nick Walker's transformation. Like, Nick Walker, you look at when he first started out, and now he's being talked about being in like the top 6 of the Olympia. Like, go into your thought process when it comes to that.
So I actually competed against him at North Americans. He's a huge human being. Either way, so in the beginning, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to accomplish, right? So in the beginning, I was...
And just to interrupt him again, like, he was already knocking people out in cages. He already... Like, it was just like, all right, I did the fighter thing now, might as well do the bodybuilding thing.
So I'll back you up a little bit. So you already know this, but they don't. So I was a very small person. I don't have the genetics, just like you, right? So when I was in high school, as a senior, I wrestled 119. I was a small guy. I then got into lifting in college, did MMA after college, fought at 155, so I wasn't a big guy.
Throw up some MMA of that dude being slept.
Yep. So I wasn't like a big guy. So for me, I just like randomly decided to get into bodybuilding. I had decent success my first show. I placed second in my first show. I dieted for 5 weeks, non-recommended, but I did it. From that point, I dedicated my life to it, right? So I wasn't sure how far it would take me, right? And in the beginning, I don't know if pro card was on the menu. I just wanted to be my best, right? And then eventually I got better and better, and I realized I was moving up the ranks. That's when I felt like I could do it, right? So in the beginning, it wasn't like that was my goal. I just wanted to push my body for its point that I could get it. And then I started getting close. I did my first national show, placed within the top 10, and I was like, okay, I got a shot. So that just motivated me even more. But the point is, I went from somebody without genetic gifts at all, and it just takes a long time.
Well, I just say that because, like, everyone who comes to the gym, like, oh, Nate probably never worked out ever. He's always been that jacked. And I'm just like, oh my
There's a lot of work, man,
Lord.
and a long time. So, like, you know this, it took me a decade to go from a 155-pound kid the first time I stepped on stage to winning my pro card. That took a very long time, and really, in my opinion, you can accomplish any of those things. It just might take you a little bit longer than other people, right? So I think my philosophy on that is, I think I can outwork and outlast anybody. They might have different genetic gifts. Most of those guys flash out early, though. So, like, I don't think they appreciate the work that it takes to get there.
I agree.
It's a little too easy for them.
I really do agree on this point.
So for me, that's my thing, is like, I always thought I can't overcome the genetics, but I can work harder. I can make sure all my meals are on time, make sure my off season's perfect, make sure I do all the right things, because I don't think those guys will do those. That's my opinion. That's what I always told myself. To put myself ahead, that's the only shot I had, was to be perfect in every other aspect. So with my training, with my diet, with my personal life, it's keeping all those things in check. And I just knew, and I believed in myself, that in time I could get there. So I did North Americans the first time, placed 9th, and then 3 years later did it again, placed 2nd, just missed. And then I did it the 3rd time and won, obviously. It just took time. I knew after North Americans the first time, my first national show, I had a shot. That's how I knew I had a shot. So that just amped me up even further. I knew that I could make it happen.
Like, what was the talk? Because, like, you're from a different generation than I am. And, like, nowadays it's like, if you don't have the starting look, don't even bother. Like, when your come up happened, how was everyone in your ears as you came up?
This is interesting. So it was different era, like you're saying. Like, there were way less divisions. It wasn't nearly as popular, by the way. Like, is gonna date me, but there wasn't social media, there was no Instagram, there was no TikTok. I didn't know anybody in my hometown that competed, right? I didn't know anybody that was in this world. Like in Pittsburgh, we know 100 people that compete.
Right.
I didn't know anybody. So I was kind of like out there on my own on that stuff. I didn't even have, you know, any mentors or people like encouraging me and telling me like you can or can't do anything, right? It was, for me, it was all self-motivated. Like nobody really planted a bug in my ear until probably 2018 or 19. This is how I knew I was ready. Gary Udit saw me at check-ins. I didn't even know Gary really knew who I was.
Who is Gary for the audience?
He's like the head, yeah, he's like the head in the Pittsburgh region. He puts on all the shows here. He's like number 2 in command next to like Jim Mannion. So short version, I mean, I knew Gary, but I didn't think he knew who I really was. I'd been competing for like 8 years by that point. Anyhow, the point is, I like killed myself to get to make my weight, and then I was eating my food because I was starving. And he found me in the auditorium, and he came and asked me, Nate, what have you done to change yourself over time? People don't change; they stay the same year after year after year.
Your transformation is bonkers.
And to me, like I train by myself for the most part. I keep to myself, so I don't really follow other people or what they're doing. I didn't know what to say, but I was kind of like taken aback. So I knew at that point I was doing something right? And I really never had that affirmation before until then. Whenever he had asked me that question, then it kind of like the light that went off. It's like I'm pretty good, right? So I didn't have anybody really in my ear one way or the other, good or bad. It was just more of what I thought I could accomplish, right? So, and it was different. Like I said, there was different classes for us. It was just bodybuilding back then. There were 2 classes for a pro, so you know, even if you went pro, it was tough because there was 212 and open, but you didn't have all the options you have today.
Right.
The one thing I didn't want to touch on though is like whether or not you should compete unless you have the look. My personal opinion is if you want to do it, I think you should do it. I think it's a bucket list item. If you're interested, you should try.
I think everyone should do one show and be like,
At
did I
least
like this process? Did I not like it?
And if you don't, that's okay. But if you like it like me, I fell in love with it after my first show and dedicated the next 9 years of my life to it. I think you have to do that.
And that leaked out into your career, obviously, of you staying
tunnel
lasered.
focused, I think that applies to everything in life. So I'm very glad and fortunate that I took the chance. I just randomly decided to do it. I didn't even know why I really decided to do it, but I'm really glad I did. Obviously, it changed my life. So I think you should give it a shot. If you want to do it, you should do it.
You played the conditioning game, which I will also be playing the conditioning game, which...
You don't have size, man. You need conditioning. In shape, yeah.
And I'm fucking lanky as shit, so conditioning's it.
Yeah.
When it came to like, oh, I need to get more size in open versus, you know, I need to be more dicey compared to everyone, like, that's a different battle when it comes to open bodybuilding, in my opinion, versus the other classes that are available. Like for someone trying to go pro in open, which I keep harping on open because like it's so much harder to get a pro card in open. It's like not even funny. Like anyone in physique can eventually get a pro card. But with open, like, are you more trying to gain tissue as you're coming up, or
that's a great question.
Were you like, okay, I'm gonna just out shred everyone the entire time?
You don't always know. You have a kind of like a structure of a plan, but you don't know exactly how it's going to play out. So for me, I could have done classic, but I didn't want to cap myself on weight because there's a height and weight cap. So for me, I always wanted to be a bodybuilder. My intention was always to grow tissue, quality tissue, not just size, and wherever the chips fell or where the chips fell. It was more depending on how the diet went. We then decided, let's say 8 weeks out, where we were gonna go, right? So the first time I did nationals, I was 200 before I started dieting down. I was a middleweight, by the way, which is 176 and a quarter, which is insane. The second time I did nationals, I was 210. The last time when I won my pro card, I was 220 and had to get to 176. Brutal. So long story short, for me, it was a game time decision, right? It's like
last cut.
Yeah, it was. I was 10 pounds over the night before weigh-ins. It was insane. It's a long story, but I made it, right? So that was the hardest diet for me, but my shot was this. It's, can I bang with the guys that are light heavyweights, or is my shot to go pro better if I hit middleweight? So it's not a decision we made in the off season. It's like, I want to get as big as I can. When I start dieting down, depending on how I look, then we make a decision. Do we make a push to hit middles and be one of the biggest middleweights, which is what played out and that's how I got my pro card? Or do you go in as like a 192 light heavyweight, maybe not have that shock and awe, right? So that's the decision you have to make throughout the diet. Have a good coach that you trust, have a game plan together. I worked with my coach for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I think that is a harping thing, is that you are not changing coaches.
Yeah.
You're with the same guy you trusted the whole time.
For the back half of my career, that's when I made the most changes. I always placed my best with him. I trusted him implicitly. He did ask my feedback. Like day of show, interesting enough, I don't know if you know this. We were working together obviously for 5 years. The week of the show, because of my aggressive cut, we had to be careful on my rebound, on how much fluid I had and salt. Because if you start to rebound, big problem, you lose your definition. So anyhow, my body was responding well to the fluid, to the salt, to the carbs. So the day of the show, he gave me way more water than he ever had. So most people cut water. He gave me a lot of water. So we made like a game time decision the day of the show, which played out in my favor. It gave me a little bit more size, a little bit more vascularity. I don't know if you know this either, but this was during COVID. So the show was outside in like 85-degree heat. So for me, like I'm vascular, the heat helped me, to be honest, and the water helped me compared to some other guys who were flattening out. So great coach, that's really what
Drop
helped
your
me.
coach is at?
Chris Tuttle.
Yeah.
Chris Tuttle, he's out of Connecticut, he's a pro as well, great guy. I like him, we get along really well. The important thing is Chris and I get along really well, I respect him a lot. You just need a coach that you really get along with, personality-wise. That's the most important thing. So Chris is my guy that I get along well with. You have your coach. As long as you guys are on the same page
Right.
as a team, I think that's great.
Yeah, as long as you guys aren't arguing with the game
And you
plan
believe in
and
what they're
going
doing,
and
yeah,
like
yeah,
you just
yeah.
like you're the athlete, you're the coach, you follow the plan.
He, like I would share some of my feedback with Chris, but he controlled the show, right? I'd say how I was feeling and maybe offer some suggestions, and he can either say yeah or shut it down. But for the most part, I was a good little soldier. I just executed. He developed a plan. I checked in, I did my part, and I let him control the show. That, for me, by the way, it took all the anxiety away from me. So all I knew is I had to follow the plan, right? So I sent my check-in photos. I did all the things I was supposed to do. I transferred all the stress to him. I think that's worth its weight in gold. And from like cortisol, stress levels, etc., I think it's really important to work with somebody. That's my belief. I think it's really hard to do it yourself. So I would encourage you to work with somebody for anxiety and stress mitigation alone. And for me, I'm too hard on myself. I would just whittle myself down to nothing. I think it's important to work with somebody, put my trust in his hands. I do the work. He's
And
the
while
mission.
you're losing your mind, you know, they're still sane.
Yeah, and I've done it. Yeah, trust me. I've like had my meltdowns as long as everybody else. And you know, we deal through that. So it's important to have somebody you trust.
Awesome, guys. Well, you'll never see that many transformations like this, so it's awesome that Nate
Thanks,
came
man.
on and showed you how
Appreciate
it gets done.